My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to talk about the dangers of non-professionals on social media. Now, in a previous show, I did talk about this a little bit, but I still want to talk about this. I think it's very important. And there was another story this week that I saw that was just too egregious to let it go. And I feel like I need to talk about this. So as we are talking about this, some of the questions I have. Number one, why are these people given a platform at all? Number two, why are these people allowed to be monetized? Now, obviously, if they're monetized, they're going to be encouraged to do more and more of the same. Now, certain social media platforms, and I'm going to try to leave out the obvious one that I'm on right now, but they allow for people to be monetized. Now, it's based on if you're popular or not. And they say that there's some standards here, but you don't have to be a professional, number one. And it obviously seems that it doesn't matter if you're doing things that are illegal or you're giving advice that no professional would ever give. So it just matters, again, if you're popular, you're going to be monetized and encouraged to do it more. One of the things I think we need to look at, amongst a lot, but today I'm going to focus on one of them, is that can we finally put an end to mommy vloggers? I mean, I know that's a strange name, and I think it's a strange business. How is it now that we have a lot of mothers out there filming their kids, and they're putting it on different social media sites? I mean, they're filming their kids in the most intimate of situations. They're filming their kids with things that should only be kept in the family or with that child. I mean, do we really need to see a girl's reaction when she's having her first period? I mean, is that okay to put on social media sites to get more subscribers, more likes, and more money? I mean, is it okay to see a very young boy or a very young girl go through their first heartbreak? And instead of consoling that child, talking with them, listening to them, having some compassion, they're getting filmed while they cry? Is this normal? How in the world can a parent be giving parental advice when we already know that they're bad parents because they're filming their kid in situations like this? Now, if the kid is 5 years old, 10 years old, 16 years old, they don't have much say. Actually, they don't really have any say. But one day they're going to be 18 years old and they're going to look back on this. And these social media sites that are allowing all of these things to happen, we have no idea what the psychological problems are going to be from all this and how it's going to cause distress in all these families. It's obviously already causing distress in children. I talk incessantly about CPTSD. Here's one way to cause it. Filming your kid crying, filming your kid being hungry, filming your kid being punished, and laughing at them while filming it, and then saying you're a good parent. Basically gaslighting the kids into thinking that you're somehow of this parental influencer out there. Where are the real professionals? I want to know. One of the ways to try to solve this problem coming from social media sites is to change the laws where the kids can actually get paid even if they're under 18 years old. That's not solving anything. That's making it worse. What it does is it's going to encourage the exploitation of these kids. And by the way, we're also, in a sense, exploiting people now that have no ability for critical analysis and think that any mother or father filming their kids is now some type of influencer. They're not going to professional therapists. They're listening to people, random people on the internet now. So we're exploiting everybody. So if we're going to pay these kids, and we're going to say it's okay, even though we're exploiting them, how does it make any other thing different, such as sex trafficking? It's like, okay, well, you're sex trafficking them, but you gave them some food, so it's okay. Or you gave them $1, it's okay. Right? What if we're in a position where you're putting a kid, like we have child labor laws, right? You can't have a 12-year-old working all day out in a field for no money. But if you give them a little bit of money, is it okay? Well, according to these social media sites, now it is. Because you can abuse children all you want and film it. And who knows what's worse? I think they're all bad. The organizations for allowing it, that's number one. Number two, the parents for doing it. Number two, and how about the millions upon millions of people who subscribe to this and allow these people to get paid? It's just one big three-ring circus as far as I can see. And not too many people are talking about it because they'll probably just end up shutting you up, right? So, I mean, there's some amazing therapists in this world, right? The leaders in the field. Again, I'm a marriage and family therapist, so I go to these conferences and I really care about what the latest is. I care about professionals who do really good work and want to give this material to other therapists and other people, other clients. I mean, the John Gottman Institute, which has all the clout in the world. On YouTube, I think the Gottman Institute has about 120,000 subscribers, which is really good, by the way. But it's like 1/20th the amount of some of these mommy vloggers and other fake therapists. Like, it's not even understandable how this happens. You know, I could mention other ones. Bessel van der Kolk, Janina Fisher, Judith Herman, Pete Walker. There's a whole bunch. And they almost have zero influence on social media. Almost none. Somehow, and I think it's because people just don't understand the difference between a professional and not a professional, we're losing the ability, especially in this country, to have critical analysis skills. I mean, we really have to check our educational system in this country. If you can't tell the difference between some person who's basically abusing people and someone who's given their life for therapy and counseling and to help people, there's a big difference. So I want to read this story just in case somebody's out there going, well, it's not that bad. You know, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, there's a lot of examples, but I'm going to do the big one that I saw this week. I'm going to read it mostly straight through. The title of this is Ruby Franke. Her YouTube channel was called 8 Passengers. Now, they did shut it down after a lot of damage was done, right? After she had over, I think it was 2.3 million subscribers, making a living off of abusing your kids. But it says, Ruby Franke, 8 Passengers, parenting mother arrested on child abuse suspicion. Now, as you go through the story, they have to say alleged and suspicion, but there's kind of no doubt here. A Utah woman who ran a popular parenting advice YouTube channel is facing child abuse charges after her malnourished son escaped from home, officials said. Interesting words, escaped from home. So now we're having these YouTube people being famous for their parenting skills, and a child leaves the house and it's called escaping. Okay. Because he did escape, right? He was being abused and exploited. Ruby Franke and her business partner, Jody Non Hildebrandt, were arrested in Ivins, Utah this week. Officials also found Ms. Franke's 10-year-old daughter in a malnourished condition at her partner's house. Both women were charged with 6 counts of child abuse on Friday. The BBC has contacted Ms. Franke and Ms. Hildebrandt for comment. Police say Ms. Franke's 12-year-old son climbed out of the window and ran to a neighbor's house to ask for food and water. Okay, she's making a lot of money off this YouTube channel. Obviously, she has no business running one. And her kids don't even have food and water? I mean, you could be the poorest person on earth. You can still get your kid water. Like, the calling party stated the juvenile appeared to be emaciated and malnourished with open wounds and duct tape around the extremities. Upon arrival, law enforcement observed the wounds and the malnourishment of the boy to be severe, the department said. The boy had to be taken to the hospital due to his deep lacerations from being tied up with rope from his malnourishment. Ms. Franke's 10-year-old daughter was also taken to the hospital. Officials later obtained a search warrant in connection with the incident, and in total, 4 children were taken into the care of Family and Child Services, according to the statement. The charges stem from the alleged abuse of 2 children in 3 different ways: physical abuse, malnutrition, and severe emotional harm, which is really interesting to me, right? Because you're doing YouTube shows on a regular basis, and everybody knows that there was emotional harm. She actually filmed it and got paid for it. So what's the big surprise here? I mean, and the malnourishment, you could probably see that with kids, right? Like super skinny. Like, this is not rocket science here. Each count carries a prison sentence of up to 10 years and a fine up to $10,000. Ms. Franke, 41 years old, became YouTube famous in 2015 for her channel called 8 Passengers that discussed the parenting of her 6 children. The channel gained over 2 million subscribers before it was deactivated earlier this year. The vlogger has faced a backlash in the past for her strict parenting measures, described on the channel, including her son claiming he slept on a beanbag for several months as punishment, and Ms. Franke describing withholding food as another disciplinary measure. So again, this stuff was out for the world to see, and yet it was continuing to be monetized. And to be clear, I wasn't allowed to be monetized. And to be clear again, I am a professional, and there's nothing that I do on this channel that would even remotely become close to this, other than trying to give the best information I can with the very high education and with the many years of experience that I have. But we're going to take a lady who knows nothing and is filming the abuse of her children, and we're going to monetize that, and we're going to subscribe to her channel because it's just so incredibly entertaining. The beanbag incident led some viewers to call local child protective services. Well, there are some good people in the world, right? Though Ms. Franke claimed to Insider the incident had been taken out of context. She has also appeared in YouTube videos posted by Ms. Hildebrandt, a counselor and life coach, on her site, Connections Classroom. Again, I don't have anything against life coaches. I know some of them that are really good. However, there's obviously a problem because the entry into the life coaching business right now is just to say that you are a life coach. And so you're getting people like this that do crazy things on social media and get popular, so they call themselves life coaches. Again, I think we need to look into this a little bit more, and social media needs to take a little look about putting people on there that are obviously abusive and they're not giving good advice. And by the way, good counselors and therapists don't give advice. That's your first clue. In one such video posted on May 10th, 2022, Ms. Franke described herself as Ms. Hildebrandt's sidekick and questioned why so many children were suffering from depression. Well, maybe it's because you're not feeding your kids. Okay. Maybe it's because you're duct taping them, their wrists and hands, and they got deep lacerations all over them, and they're not allowed to leave the house. By the way, that might be another clue. Is, a lot of these people in rural areas now, they're deciding to homeschool their children, and there's no outside agency looking at this. Now, I know somebody's out there that's going to say, screw the government, I get to do whatever I want to do. I hear you. I'm about that myself in some ways, obviously. But come on, we do need to look into this, right? Like, there's something wrong when there's a person at home filming their kids all the time and they're not allowed to leave the house, they're not allowed to go to school. Like, obviously there's a problem here. I never expected my second grader to come home and say so-and-so has anxiety and so-and-so has depression, she said. Something is off. Well, I guess the one lady actually has somebody in school, so that's good. Let's see. In a second video entitled Guiding Children to Truth, Ms. Hildebrandt called on mothers to understand that principles are necessary for children to have a calm and peaceful life. I wonder if that includes starving them. According to a report in the Salt Lake Tribune, Ms. Hildebrandt was put on probation for 18 months and nearly lost her license to be a pornography addiction therapist after publicly discussing a patient without his permission. This one's interesting because that one lady that she's connecting to, I guess she has a license of some sort, but personally I've never heard of a pornography addiction therapist. That's something that you call yourself that. So I'm not sure if it's a real license. It could be. I mean, maybe she's just an addiction therapist who calls herself a porn addiction therapist. I'm not sure there. But that seems to be a little bit sketchy also, as far as I can see. Ms. Franke's eldest daughter, Ruby Franke, shared a post on Instagram after her mother's arrest, saying that she and her family are so glad justice is being served. We've been trying to tell the police and CPS for years about this, and so glad that they finally decided to step up, she reportedly said. Now that's disturbing too. What's going on here? The kids, at least one of the kids, actually was calling CPS and the police and nothing was done up until now? That's interesting. Ms. Franke has requested an attorney and did not speak to officers, according to the Associated Press. That attorney had not publicly been identified on Thursday. So that's the end of that particular article. We're going to leave it at that for today. Let me just sum this up. I know this is one example, but there's a lot of examples out there, and we really need to do something here. I mean, the barrier to entry to be a therapist is severe. You need 3,000 hours, basically, that you're working for free, right? And then you need to pass the state board. And on top of that, to get into graduate school, you already need the 4 years to get a Bachelor of Science degree. You're in graduate school. They say it's 2 years, but that's a lie. It's actually 3. So you got 7 there. And then by the time you finish your 3,000 hours that you need, you're looking at another 3. So it takes about 10 years to be a licensed therapist. And yet, social media is encouraging these people who are not professionals. I'm not saying every professional does the right thing all the time, but being that there's such a severe barrier to entry into the business, it would make sense that they would do the right things most of the time, especially because they do want to keep their license as soon as they obtain it. So I don't know why these social media channels are allowing this. That's number one. Number two, who are these people out there subscribing to all of these channels where you know that these people aren't professionals? I mean, do you just do it just to be entertained by something? It's a weird form of entertainment. And I just don't get it. And let's take a look at the morals and the virtues and the values of these people out there putting themselves off as a professional. I remember back in the day, even at the gym, when I was training all the time. I was a manager of a gym, but I didn't get my degree in exercise physiology yet. And I had people come to me wanting to train with me. I actually turned them down, not turning them down in terms of training all of them, but I turned them down in terms of I did not want to get paid because I didn't feel like I was a professional yet. But once I got my college degree, then I decided that it was okay to start getting paid. How in the world is it okay for people to start thinking that they're psychologists and psychiatrists and therapists now? It's insane to me to think that there are people out there like that, and they have kids. And there's a person out there in the world that wanted to be their partner of a person that is so bereft of humanity. How do they actually attract a partner? That's a question for another show, I guess. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say today about the dangers of non-professionals on social media. Hopefully this has been beneficial to you in some way. I'm Joe Peroni. This is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.